COVID-19. It may seem like a daunting task, but I promise you there are opportunities available. Here's a look at the agenda we're going to go through today over the next half hour or so. We're going to talk about the current job trends, the ever-evolving work environments, adjusting to hiring needs, employer expectations, job seeker pre-qualifications, and then we'll have some time at the end for some Q&A. We're also going to go through a few job trends, including healthcare, government, IT, HR, finance, and other professions. So looking at some healthcare trends over the past few months since the COVID crisis began. It's sort of been up and down, so I want to kind of go through it with you step by step. Starting around March and April, we saw quite a spike in the healthcare division, at least, in job openings for care related to COVID patients. So they were looking for things like epidemiologists, virologists, registered nurses, nurse aides, those types of jobs. They were really trying to gear up for all these COVID cases that they expected back in March and April. We saw a big decline in surgeries, elective surgeries especially. There were fewer healthcare facilities seeking physicians and nurses and other healthcare positions. There was a bit of an increase in call center front desk personnel to answer community questions about the virus. You know, people would call and describe their symptoms. Should I go to a doctor? Should I get tested? Those kinds of positions popped up in the beginning. And then there's also been a need for foreign language speakers to help get COVID-related information out. And then we saw, of course, the mobile units that go from place to place when there's a cluster where they do the on-site testing. So in the beginning, in March and April, we saw a big spike in the facilities gearing up for this. But then, end of April, May, June, there were very few cases here. So all of a sudden, the needs just dropped. However, past 2-3 weeks, we've seen the spike go up again. So now we're seeing a lot of healthcare jobs in particular popping back onto the scene. A lot of needs right now for registered nurses, nurse aides, medical assistants, those types of things. On the administration side, in things like IT, HR, and finance, there's been a big increase for IT positions to support everybody who's home teleworking. HR positions have increased because all these new laws for COVID-19 that have come up have created lots of questions, new policies and procedures. It's been a whole new world for these COVID-19 laws for employees. There's been a decline in sales, marketing, and events positions. Just think of it. Every day we hear about things that are getting canceled, big road races or conventions, those types of things. Weddings, the wedding industry has been really hard hit. So those types of events, anybody who works in those industries has definitely had a hard time. We have, however, seen some steady growing roles in things like finance and insurance industries. So what do you do if you're between jobs during COVID? Well, for example, learn some new skills, take an online class, take a webinar or some other online training. Take an inventory of your skills to determine just how they can transfer to other industries. Try networking like you're doing right now. Try LinkedIn or other online job fairs. The big thing, I think, is consider taking a job outside of what you've been doing. You got to maintain income at some point and your health insurance. Perhaps you're on furlough, but sooner or later that may end and your insurance may go away. But if you can get another job in another industry, get your health care, get some income coming in, nobody's going to fault you for taking a job outside of your previous industries. It's a matter of everybody's in the same boat. We're all in this together, and we're all just trying to survive. And as far as taking an inventory of your skills, I'll tell you a quick story from my own experience. About 6 years ago, when I moved back to Hawaii, I came without a job, but I had confidence that I was going to find a job. And I worked with a recruiter, and she helped me to kind of go through the skills I had. I previously worked in the television news industry, and she helped me find the skills that I had and try to find a way how they might transfer to another industry. And so that was 6 years ago, almost 6 years ago. And that led to the job I have at Kalamalama in 2014. Through the years, I've moved up through the ranks. Most recently, I took on Staffing Solutions of Hawaii as well. So I'm managing director over both companies. So you really got to look at yourself. If you've been working, say, in the hospitality industry, maybe you can get a job in customer service. There's lots of jobs in customer service right now. So let's take a look at how the work environments are changing. Remote working is one option, but for employers who are still using their offices, they're having to make lots of changes on site. They're implementing some social distancing measures. They're making rules about mask requirements to follow what the laws are or what the guidelines are with the CDC. They're inputting one-way directions in their offices, in the hallways. Some are staggering work schedules so everyone's not coming in at the same time. Lots of companies have started doing temperature checks and screenings. I know at Kahomalama, we're getting lots of calls from companies who are looking for medical assistants or even RNs to be on site doing temperature checks and screenings. So it's going to be a whole new world for everybody until all of this settles down in the next 6 months. Who knows how long it's going to take. But if you're working from home, it's time to adapt if you haven't done it already. Designate a work area in your home and consider the ergonomics involved so you're comfortable and you can be productive. You know, working from your kitchen table may seem like an easy thing to do, but at the end of the day, you know, is that where you're most productive? You know, I think it's best if you can set aside a desk, maybe in a spare bedroom or some other location in your home where you can just dedicate that just to your workday. When it's over, you get away from it. Another big thing is just get familiar with video conferencing. Most of us never heard of Zoom 3, 4, 5 months ago, but now for most of us, it's part of our everyday life. I think some days I do 4 to 5 Zoom meetings a day. And I tell everybody, when I worked in television news, I was hardly ever on camera. Now I work in an office and I'm on camera more than I've ever been. So it's a whole new world out there for everybody. When you're at home, make sure you have the proper IT set up. You need your computer equipment, you need Wi-Fi, you need maybe speakers or a headset, all those kinds of things. You really need to get set up with those. And of course, invest in cybersecurity because there are lots of scams out there and online hackers who are trying to take advantage of everyone. So that's my portion. I'm going to turn it over to Nikki right now. She's got lots of great information about government trends where there are really a lot of opportunities right now. Nikki.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it. I have to laugh because, yes, I think I'm on Zoom almost 5 or 6 times a day myself. So hello, everybody. Thank you for having us and being part of this great event. Lisa had wanted to be here today. She's our CEO and president. Unfortunately, she had a last-minute emergency that she had to attend to. So I'm going to step in and speak to you a little bit about some of the things that we're seeing on the government side. Really exciting things, actually, some of the trends that we are noticing, especially in the telework area. We have seen an increase with teleworking flexibilities, especially with the federal contracts. You know, the feds have always had this initiative from the early 2000s. They really rely on this model. They're self-sufficient around the teleworking model. And really the only essential personnel is where we see on-site staff. We have seen an increase in COVID-19 response positions, especially with our epidemiologists, our microbiologists, our public health officers. In addition, we've seen positions specifically created for COVID-19 response on all levels and verticals. This could be admin, data entry, IT roles. So there is a lot of work out there if you're interested in the government sector, and you don't necessarily need a clearance. A lot of state roles just require a background check. And some of our federal roles, most of them do require the clearance. Some of them do not. So I encourage you to get out there and look and see what roles in your background or in your niche are hiring. We haven't seen, like I said, we haven't seen many restrictions on the teleworking. So if you're interested in teleworking, that's certainly a possibility with our government roles. We do a lot of our onboarding online, so that's handled all virtually. We are adjusting our hiring needs as well as we're learning how to work around around COVID-19. It's interesting. I saw an article the other day in the Times the U.S. economy added 1.8 million jobs in July, even as a wave of new coronavirus cases forced most U.S. states to pause or reverse openings. And the question is why? And I think it's because employers are becoming more innovative, and we're finding ways to respond in the face of COVID-19. Rob, could you change to the next slide? We're being more agile as an employer. We're allowing for that flexible work schedule. We're especially to accommodate those with, school-aged children. And that's really important because you have employees who are also parents. So they have this combination dual role where they really require that flexibility. It's hard to be in the workforce full time and also having to teach your children lessons. So being able to be an employer who offers that flexible work schedule and an employer who offers teleworking really allows more jobs to open up and allows employees to get back into the workforce more. We're also promoting a safer work environment. I do remember back in March and April, we were getting a lot of the response from our candidates that they just weren't comfortable returning to the workforce. They were fearful for catching the virus, and that's completely understandable. But now we are able to create a safer work environment. We know a lot more. We know how to protect our employees. So we're seeing a lot more candidates come through, and they feel more confident going out into the workforce. Creating essential jobs to combat the public health crisis, just like the microbiologists we're seeing a lot of, the lab assistants. We just put a bid in for contact tracers. We've seen face mask makers. We even have a rise in platforms like Zoom or video teleconferencing, whether it's support or trainers, or on the back end of that as well. So the investment in digital marketing overall has been really good. So if you're into that, if that's your niche, that's a great area to look into. So employer expectations, the then versus the now. We've really changed how we look at everything. We have a completely new perspective on sick leave, on sick policy. We're a lot more cautious. I think I mentioned it as he was talking about how legislation has changed with the emergency paid sick leave, the issue into the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So we're looking a lot more at that and how we're handling our employees. We're very cautious and compassionate with each case. So in that retrospect, we've changed a lot. We're also more open to, like I said, the remote work, and because our employees, we've seen it firsthand, have proved themselves to be completely competent to perform at the same level that they would in office as they do from home, if not better. So we are encouraging that. It's a safer way. And because we have so many platforms out there that allow us to interact and interface, we definitely encourage it. Previously, we were looking to check every box as far as skill set, certifications, licenses, education, etc. While all that is still super, super important to us, we're looking for something from the employee that's a little bit deeper now. We're looking for folks that are going to work well under pressure, that are flexible, that can roll with the ever-changing tide. We want folks that kind of step up, that see outside the box. And we are definitely looking for employees that are going to be safety conscious, compliant, and mission oriented. So that kind of segues into what pre-qualifications are employers looking for during COVID-19. Again, flexible, open to cross-training. Rob mentioned learning different skill sets. That's important. If you can pick up some extra skill set, if you're interested in customer service, great. What other type of skill sets can you add on to that will help open up the doors for you just a little bit more to give you an edge on your competition? Adhering to the CDC policy procedure, not only adhering to it, know it because you're going back into a workforce that's different from what you're used to. So be able to understand it, know it, and willing to be compliant and flexible with the clients and their needs and their specific job site. Time management skills are a must, especially if you're going to be working remotely. You need to be accountable for your tasks and what your deliverables are and what you need to give back to your direct manager. Computer skills, high test scores, extremely important. Phone etiquette and video teleconferencing skills. And you need to be familiar with the various platforms that are out there. I encourage you to get with a friend and learn how to, if you not familiar with your Zoom or your Teams or whatever platforms that you guys are going to be using, get with a friend and practice it. Practice how to use a shared screen, practice, how to interface with each other. Know the client that you're looking to pursue and know the job description that you're after. If that's something that you're really interested in, know it in and out, know what the client's mission is, familiarize yourself with them, and then figure out what your differentiator is. What separates you from the other 5 people that are applying? And you want to go into that interview being able to say, I can do this, this, and this, and this, and that's what my leverage is. And make sure that you're saying it in a way that really sells yourself. Because there is going to be a lot more competition now. Clearances, certifications, licenses for government, medical, IT roles, these are still important. So you want to stick those at the top of your resume, put them in bold. Let us see those, right? We want to see those right the first thing that we see. So we know that you are where you are in your industry and what you have at the table. What you're bringing to the table. So that's a little bit about what we have in the government area, what we're looking for our employees. I encourage you guys to apply, ask questions, and our contact information is here. You can reach us via every aspect of social media. We will take questions at this point.
Great. Thank you, Nikki and Rob. Greatly appreciate it. So my name is Kayala Peters, and I'll be facilitating the question and answers. I head up education and workforce development here at the Chamber. Again, mahalo for sharing all of that information with us. So we'll turn to our questions now. You talked a lot about transferable skills. So there's a question about any advice on how to gain the certifications and credentials that are needed to be able to transfer my skills from hospitality industry into technology or healthcare? Big question.
Well, for healthcare, there's lots of training schools. There are nurse aid schools. There's, of course, nursing schools. There's a huge shortage of nurses in Hawaii. There's always been. A lot of people end up going to the mainland because they can't get jobs here. So I would look into those types of schools and other training. Some employers will train you on the job. It just depends what you're looking for out there. Of course, with technical stuff, Nikki may know more about that, but I'm sure there are technical schools, KCC, I'm sure has programs. Other ideas, Nikki?
Yeah, KCC is a good one for technical training. There are a few other technical schools that are out there. It depends what you're looking to go after. I know they have some online resources as well too that you're able to do and complete the pendulum, so that if you're working at the same time, you can complete them in the evening. So it's nice. It affords you to be able to keep a job and get your training and your certifications at the same time.
Yeah, and two that I'm aware of that I'll share. One is for folks who are interested in starting a career in healthcare. As you mentioned, Nikki, Kapiolani Community College, they just stood up their Kapiolani Rapid Health program. And these are trainings that are as short as 3 months to train to be a medical assistant, a phlebotomist, et cetera. There are about 4 different programs. And in many cases, the program can be free if you qualify. So Kapil is Rapid Health Education Program. And then a second one that I would share is for those who are interested in gaining training or credentials in technology, if you Google HTDC Coursera, you'll see that there's a new program that HTD is offering here in Hawaii, over 3,000 free online technology classes. So, good resources there. The second question has to do with what are called lifeboat jobs. The question is, I'm being encouraged to be flexible and consider what are called lifeboat jobs, something that I may not have normally considered. Any advice for me, and how do I make sure I don't stay in a lifeboat job for long?
Well, I can reflect back on my experience about 6 years ago when I moved back to Hawaii. It was 6 years ago last month. Like I had said earlier, I didn't come with a job, but I ended up taking a job outside of my field again, just to get a job and get my foot in the door. This was not the current job I have now. It was with a photography company where they went around and took pictures of tourists at different locations on the hotel property. It was an okay job for a few months. It was fun. I was outdoors. I met lots of fun people on vacation, but it wasn't something I wanted to do long term. So it was something that kind of bought me some time until I found a job and a good recruiter and got me in the right place that I really could grow and develop a new career, or find a place where I might have continued where I was before.
Nikki, anything you would add?
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, if you get out there and use your skills in some form or another and not stay stagnant, I think that's the best advice I can give you. You can sit around and it will drive you crazy. We all know what quarantine has done to a lot of us. But if you're out there, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know. Use it as a networking, if anything else. And I think Rob touched on a subject as well, too, when he mentioned keeping your insurance active. You know, that's important, too. You want to make sure that if you're able to get insurance out of a position, out of a role, because you never know what's going to happen in this climate, right? But yeah, use it to network, use it to pick up your skills, and just get out there. And if your mind is active, you know, it could lead. You never know where that's going to lead.
Yeah, and I'll just add that obviously this is not a good time to be without health insurance, so you really want to make sure that stays going on. Yeah. But also, you know, come to an agency like Staffing Solutions of Hawaii. We have jobs in all different kinds of fields. You know, we'll meet with you and talk with you, and you know, try to find something that will fit you. We have jobs in IT and customer service, and Kahu has home care and other medical facilities. There's lots of jobs out there. Companies are hiring right now. There are opportunities out there.
Yeah.
You're so right, Rob. So just 2 weeks ago, the Chamber launched hawaiiishiring.com, and you can go to that site and see how many job postings there are in Hawaii. And right now, that number today is 20,057 unique positions. And we're hearing from employers, as I'm sure you are, that they have jobs posted. They just are not getting applicants. And so we want people to meet. And so keep pursuing.
People are still apprehensive about going back into the workplace because of the COVID, especially the past few weeks when it's sort of blown up a lot more. But you know, most employers are taking precautions. They're taking safety measures. They're keeping a close eye on everything. So I think I can understand the apprehension about going back into the office, but you know, just look at the opportunities out there and just, you know, take your own risk level and see what you can do with it.
Yeah. Good advice. The last question that has been submitted has to do with, it says, I hear that jobs within the defense industry are booming. Are there any entry-level jobs that I might be qualified for, either with the Department of Defense or a defense contractor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They are booming, and we are desperately looking for folks. So if you have a clearance, you can send me a resume. I'll be glad to take it. Our contact information, I think we had it, but I can send you my email. I'll give it to you. It is nicci@staffingsolutionsofhawaii.com. It's NICCI@staffingsolutionsofhawaii.com. And to answer your question a little bit better, yes, we have all types of roles in all verticals in the Department of Defense. They're our biggest client out here in Hawaii. Everything from administrative data entry up to high-end IT. So we have, we work very, very closely with all the branches of the military, and we are constantly providing them varied solutions. So we're looking for qualified candidates that, you know, on different levels that can come in and really help us out. So we're very interested in speaking with you. So if you do have a resume, please send it to us. And we'd love a chance to speak with you. Absolutely.
Great. And for folks who don't have their security clearance, 2 questions. Is that something that Staffing Solutions can help them navigate? And then also, are there positions that don't require the security clearance?
So I touched a little bit on this. If you don't have your security clearance, it's a little bit more difficult in the federal government. There are some roles that don't require it. Most of the ones in the Department of Defense do require it. We do have roles with the state that do not require it. And they do require background checks, but not necessarily a clearance. So there is opportunity out there. I encourage you to apply and sit down with one of our recruiters, and we can see what the best fit is for you.
Great, thank you.
Government contracting is interesting though, because we have ways that we can sponsor an individual and they can get on contract and get their clearance. So there's different ways to kind of get your foot in the door with government contracting.
Great. And for individuals who have worked, for instance, in hospitality and they're interested in moving to a more resilient industry, definitely jobs within the defense sector here in Hawaii is a great place to be. So thank you, Nikki, for helping people navigate that. There's one other question that's popped up, and I think we have time for it. And this is from Jaylin, who she's heard about the shortage of nurses in Hawaii. And she grew up in Hawaii, but went to the mainland for nursing school. With the current demand, how are my chances of getting a job in Hawaii coming back from the mainland as a nurse?
If you have some experience, there's a great chance you'll get a job here. There are so many openings, the hospitals right now, especially, I think for ICU, ER, those types of jobs right now, in light of the situation, those jobs are pretty hot right now. There are generally many, sometimes hundreds of travel nurses who are here in Hawaii, filling positions for 3 or 4 months at a time. Some even extend and stay 6 months or a year. So, you know, if you have experience, you definitely have a good shot of getting a job in Hawaii. The problem with Hawaii is getting your first job, because most of the facilities require experience, or they only hire maybe a couple of new grads every year. So that's where we end up losing these nurses who go to the mainland and get jobs, and maybe end up staying there. They get married, have a family, and many times don't come back. But for the ones who do come back, there are definitely opportunities here. And come to an agency like Kahumalama Nurses. We have lots of per diem jobs. We have contract jobs. We have temp to hire jobs, direct hire jobs for nurses. So we could definitely assist in a search like that. We would love to help.
Great. Wonderful. So I think that wraps up our time for questions. I wondered, Rob and Nikki, if you have any parting thoughts for our job seekers who have joined us this morning.
I would just say, you know, I've been between jobs before, and it's hard in the best of situations. I got laid off in the last recession in 2008, 2009, and it took me about 5-6 months to get a job. And that's when I actually came to Hawaii the first time. I got a call for a job in Hawaii. I was living in St. Louis, and a recruiter called me about a job in Hawaii at a TV station. And I said, no, I don't want to go to Hawaii. I have no interest in going to Hawaii. I don't even know how to spell it, let alone want to move there. And he's like, oh, they just want to talk to you, talk to them. And so I talked to the station a few times, and they came out to visit and did an interview. And the next day they offered me the job. And I was standing on Kailua Beach, and they called me offering the job, and I was like, "You're gonna pay me to live here? Of course, I'll take this job." So my point is being open to new opportunities. Just get out there. Like we said, there are lots of jobs, lots of opportunities. Just be open to trying something new. Nikki, what do you think?
Yeah, I would echo Rob's sentiment with being open-minded. This is a time. I mean, embrace maybe grabbing a new skill set. You have the time right now, if anything, while exploring new opportunities. Take it upon yourself to really try something new. There is so much out there, and I wouldn't be afraid to really try something new. If you can find something remotely to dabble in, I encourage it. And I encourage you to take time to sit down with a recruiter. We have so many here at Staffing Solutions of Hawaii that can help you, and Kaho'olama nurses that can help you sit down and listen to what you're looking for, and maybe explore some options for you that might be transferable skills if your industry has been shut down, and can help you look into something new. So we're here for you. I know it is a difficult time right now, but I say stay encouraged, stay focused, and keep persevering. And we look forward to helping you.